Have you ever wondered if God hears you when your heart is too heavy to speak? When all you can manage is a gentle whisper or even silent tears? Let me remind you today, God hears every word, every sigh, and every silent prayer. He listens not only to the loud cries of desperation, but also to the unspoken desires buried deep within your heart. No prayer is too small, no whisper too faint for the ears of our loving Father. From the moment you draw close to him, even if all you can muster is a soft help me, God leans in with infinite care. The scriptures assure us in Psalm 34:15, the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are attentive to their cry. This means that he hears even what you cannot verbalize, understanding the language of your soul. Silence doesn't mean absence. Often it means reverent. Those moments when words fail and all you can do is bow your head, God hears the cries of your heart. Even the smallest, most fleeting thoughts are captured in his awareness. God is so attuned to your silent prayers that the Bible says he collects your tears in a bottle, Psalm 56. Imagine a God who treasures your pain and heartache, showing that even unspoken prayers are never unnoticed or disregarded. Remember Hannah, who prayed silently in the temple for a child? Her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. Yet God not only heard her unspoken prayer, but answered it in a miraculous way. 1 Samuel 1, if God heard Hannah's silent plea, how much more will he hear yours? Romans 8:26 teaches us that when we do not know what to pray, the Spirit himself intercedes with groans that words cannot express. Even your wordless whispers are amplified before God's throne through the power of the Holy Spirit. Silent prayers aren't just for requests, they can also express profound gratitude. When words fail to convey the depth of your thanks, God understands your heart's overflow of love and appreciation. Sometimes it feels like God is silent in response to your silent prayers, but trust that his timing is always perfect. His seeming delay is never denial, but preparation for the best he has in store for you. Silent prayers often reflect the humility and faith of a heart bowed before God. It's not about the volume of your voice, but the sincerity of your heart that reaches him. Throughout the Gospels, Jesus responded to unspoken needs. The woman with the issue of blood didn't even ask him aloud for healing. She simply touched his garment in faith. Her silent action spoke louder than words, and Jesus responded with compassion and power. Even when it feels like your prayers are bouncing off the ceiling, trust that God hears everyone. Revelation 5:8 describes the prayers of the saints as golden bowls of incense before the throne of God. Your whispers are precious to him. You don't need to shout to move the heart of God. Jesus said, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can move mountains. Even your quietest prayers, when rooted in faith, carry immense power. God knows you better than you know yourself. He hears the prayers you haven't even realized you're praying. He understands your needs before you speak them because he sees the depths of your soul. Sometimes the most profound prayers are those whispered in stillness. Be still and know that he is God. Psalm 46:10. In the quiet you will find his presence enveloping you with peace. Silent prayers often come with a quiet trust in God's will. When you whisper your burdens to him, you are acknowledging that he is in control, even when life feels chaotic. Many believers can testify to the miracles that came from prayers they never voiced aloud. God's faithfulness is evident not just in what we ask for, but also in the things we can't even articulate. Don't stop praying even when it feels like nothing is happening. Your silent prayers are like seeds planted in the ground, waiting for the right time to bloom into God's blessing. God isn't like us, easily distracted or busy. His attention to you is unwavering. Every whisper, every fleeting thought is met with his loving focus. Even Jesus, the Son of God, often withdrew to pray in silence and solitude. Follow his example, knowing that your whispered prayers are part of a divine conversation with the Father. Silent prayers not only reach God, but also transform you. They shape your heart, aligning it with God's will and strengthening your trust in his promises. God doesn't just hear your prayers, he acts on them. Trust that every whispered plea is working toward his greater purpose for your life. He hears, he cares, and he will answer. Never underestimate the power of a whispered prayer. It is often in those quiet moments of surrender that God begins to move. Think of the leper who simply said, "Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean." Matthew 8:2. It wasn't a loud demand, but a humble plea that changed his life. Your whisper can set God's miracle in motion. God's ability to hear is not determined by the loudness of your prayer, but by the depth of your faith. Whether you cry out in desperation or softly murmur your needs, God's response is always based on his infinite love and wisdom. When words fail and all you can do is weep, God reads every tear like a prayer. Each drop carries a message of hope, pain, or thanksgiving. Psalm 39:12 reminds us, "Hear my prayer, Lord. Do not be deaf to my weeping." Even your tears hold power in God's presence. Life can be noisy, chaotic, and overwhelming. Yet, in the middle of the storm, your quiet prayers cut through the clamour and reach the ears of a God who calms the winds and waves. Your whispers are a declaration of faith amid the noise of doubt. Sometimes God's answers come as gently as your prayers. Just as Elijah experienced God not in the wind or fire, but in the still, small voice, you may find his response in the subtle movements of your life. Look for his quiet reassurances. Your whispered prayers are deeply personal moments with God. They create a unique intimacy where you open your heart fully to him. In those quiet moments, he speaks life, peace, and purpose into your soul. Even when you stumble over your words or can't articulate your thoughts, God understands. He knows your heart better than you do. Isaiah 65:24 says, "Before they call, I will answer. While they are still speaking, I will hear." Whispered prayers are acts of trust. They show that you believe God hears you even when no one else does. This trust pleases him and strengthens your relationship with him. While your whispered prayers may seem small, they can unleash mighty movements of God. He is always working behind the scenes, orchestrating events that align with your prayers in ways you may not even realize. Silent or spoken, prayer anchors your soul. It keeps you steady when life tries to toss you around. In those whispered moments, you cling to the one who holds you through every trial. Make whispering to God a daily habit. Even when things are going well, let your silent prayers be a way to stay connected to him. Gratitude whispered in the good times builds trust for the difficult moments. If your whispered prayer doesn't seem answered right away, trust that God's timing is perfect. He may be preparing you for something greater than you could imagine. Your patience will never be in vain. Think of every whispered prayer as a seed planted in faith. God will water it, nurture it, and cause it to grow in his time. Trust that no seed of prayer goes unnoticed. Keep whispering, even when the answers seem delayed. Jesus taught us in Luke 18:1-8 to always pray and never give up. Your persistence shows God that you trust his plan and believe in his promises. So many miracles in the Bible began with simple, heartfelt prayers. Your whisper could be the beginning of a breakthrough. Trust that God is always listening and ready to act on your behalf. Unlike people who can be too busy or distracted, God's ears are always open to you. He is never too far, too busy, or too tired to hear your whispered cries. Even in your darkest moments, when despair seems to overwhelm you, a whispered prayer is a lifeline. It's a reminder that God's light shines brightest in the darkness, and He is with you always. Silent prayers don't just change your circumstances. They change you. They align your heart with God's will, fill you with His peace, and strengthen your faith in ways you never thought possible. Thank God even in your whispered prayers. Gratitude turns your focus from your problems to His power, reminding you that He has already brought you through so much. When you whisper your prayers to God, you declare your faith in His ability to hear and answer. It's a bold statement that says, I trust you, Lord, even in the silence. Your whispered prayers don't just affect you. They can impact those around you. As you pray silently for others, you invite God's presence and blessings into their lives as well. God often answers silent prayers in ways you don't expect. Be open to His methods and timing, knowing that He always works for your good and His glory. Whispering a prayer is an act of vulnerability where you expose your heart to God. In that vulnerability, you find His strength and assurance that He is in control. Sometimes God answers your whispered prayers with small blessings that build your faith. Celebrate these moments as reminders of His attentiveness and care for you. Your whispered prayers have eternal value. They are stored in God's memory, cherished by Him, and can bring about outcomes that impact generations to come. No matter how long it takes, no matter how silent the answer seems, don't stop whispering your prayers to God. His faithfulness never wavers, and His answers are always worth the wait. Your whispered prayers are an invitation for God to work, but they're also an opportunity for you to rest in His presence. Let the peace of knowing He hears you calm your heart and strengthen your soul. God has promised to hear and answer the prayers of His people. Your whispered prayers rest on the foundation of His unchanging faithfulness. Trust that He is working for your good even when you can't see it yet. Your whispered prayers are evidence of a God who is near, who walks with you through every trial and who never leaves your side. Rest in the comfort that you are never alone in this journey. Your whispered prayers are a testament to God's deep love for you. He cares about every detail of your life, every burden you carry, and every whisper of your heart. There are times when you may not even have the words to whisper to God. Yet in those moments of silence, His Spirit intercedes for you. Romans 8:26 reminds us that the Spirit Himself helps in our weakness, translating groans and sighs into prayers before the throne of God. When life feels like a storm and your voice is drowned out by the noise of fear or confusion, God still hears your faintest prayers. Just like Jesus calmed the sea with His words, He can bring peace to your troubled heart when you trust Him with your quiet petition. It's in stillness and whispered prayer that God often reveals Himself most powerfully. Psalm 46:10 tells us, "Be still and know that I am God." Your whispers are moments where you pause, recognize His sovereignty, and let Him take control of your circumstances. Each whispered prayer is a reminder that God is near. He doesn't need you to shout to get His attention because He is already by your side, ready to listen and act. Let this truth comfort you in moments of despair or uncertainty. Whispered prayers show a quiet confidence in God. They reflect your trust that He hears you without the need for theatrics or loud declarations. Trusting Him with your whispers is a declaration that His power is not dependent on the volume of your words. Though you may not see immediate answers to your whispered prayers, trust that God's timing is always perfect. He may be preparing something far greater than what you have asked for. Hold on to the promise of His faithfulness. Silent prayers of gratitude are just as powerful as requests. Thank God for what He has already done, even as you wait for the answers to other prayers. Gratitude opens your heart to receive more of His blessings and reminds you of His goodness. Your whispered prayers, though seemingly small, can yield outcomes far beyond your imagination. They demonstrate your faith in a big God who is capable of doing immeasurably more than you could ask or think. Ephesians 3:20. Sometimes your whispered prayers focus on the smallest details of your life. Be encouraged that God cares about those details. He knows the number of hairs on your head, Luke 12:7, and is intimately involved in every aspect of your story. Even when God seems silent, keep whispering your prayers and trusting Him. His silence doesn't mean absence. It often means He is working behind the scenes to align things perfectly for your good. Don't grow weary in whispering your prayers. Keep asking, seeking and knocking, Matthew 7:7. Persistent faith pleases God and positions you to receive His blessings in ways that will leave you in awe of His goodness. Know that no prayer, no matter how small or quiet, is ever wasted. Every whispered prayer is a treasure stored in heaven, a demonstration of your faith and a testament to God's boundless love for you. Keep whispering, keep believing, and trust that God hears and answers in His perfect way. Your whispered prayers may seem simple and quiet, but they hold immense power in the eyes of God. Trust that He hears every word, every sigh, and every longing in your heart. Let your whispers be filled with faith, knowing that God's love, care, and timing are perfect for your life. Keep whispering, keep believing, and let your heart rest in the assurance that He is working all things together for your good.